It's the first ever NBA in-season tournament. All 30 teams going for one brand new trophy.
The stakes are the highest.
Only 8 teams advance from the group stages. Then it's down to single elimination.
It's win or go home.
The last 4 standing will battle it out in Las Vegas, baby. They're going to go all in on the hardwood for season-long bragging rights in the first ever NBA Cup. Hope everyone's feeling lucky. The NBA in-season tournament begins November 3rd on ABC, ESPN, and TNT.
Hello and welcome to a new podcast, The Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello and welcome to The Paddock and the Pavilion, and to all our listeners around the world. It's been fantastic over the past 2 weeks to have the show featured on BBC Radio Suffolk's Upload programme at 9 o'clock, and I'm pleased to let you know that part of our episode with Ebony Rainford Brent will be broadcast on their show this Wednesday at approximately 9:30. Today's guest is Phillip DeFreitas, known as Daffy. He played 44 Test matches for England, 103 one-day internationals, and in a 2-decade career took over 1,200 first-class wickets and scored over 10,000 runs. I hope you enjoy episode 14 and our return to cricket. Don't forget you can download the show on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify or Stitcher. Give us a rating and let us know what you think of the show so far. Welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion, Philip.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
And how are you?
I'm very well, considering, but it's all good, thank you.
Well, it seems a while since I last spoke to you when you came to the Marchtown Cricket Club dinner in late February. A lot has happened since then.
Yeah, it's like you said, it seems ages ago, really, and it's been a strange summer, really. The first half we had terrific weather. Unfortunately, there was no cricket, but the second half we managed to squeeze a lot of cricket in. And I think that credit goes to the ECB. Really, they've done terrifically well and managed to get some cricket going. Good.
Now we're going to talk about your career over 2 decades today. And to start with, you were born in Dominica in 1966. When did you come to England, and what are your earliest cricketing memories?
Well, yeah, it's strange really because I came over to England when I was about 7 or 8. And sort of, it seems such a long time ago, which it is, and I remember when I first arrived, it must have been sort of around November time, and it was foggy, it was cold, and I thought, my word, where have I arrived? What's happening here? But it's it's one of those really, it's such a long time ago. And the first thing I always remember was, sort of when I arrived, and I think I was picked up by my dad and one of my brothers, and I couldn't believe, the traffic. Basically, I was just amazed, really, because as a kid, in Dominica, as a youngster, we didn't see as much traffic, so that was a big surprise to me.
So where did you arrive to? Was that London? No.
Yeah, it was London. Yeah, we arrived at London. And it's it's a strange one because I was with my younger brother Reuben, and we both arrived together, and then we were the last two basically. I'm one of 7 boys, and the rest of the boys obviously were in the UK, and Reuben and I were the last two who we were left with my grandmother in Dominica, and which is, you can't think, you're trying to, figure it out really. And I was left with my grandmother, and then we were sent on this enormous plane, just, 2 youngsters basically. Reuben 2 years younger than I was. So Reuben would have been about 5 or 6. And we were on this plane, and then we arrived in the UK.
And the 2 of you came on your own?
Yeah, we came on our own. Yeah, we were looked after when we went from Dominica, got on the plane, and we were looked after when we got into Antigua. Obviously, they knew that we were the youngsters, so we put into I think it was a waiting room, private waiting room. We were sat there. We had to wait for the British Airways flight. And that's I can remember. And it was quite frightening, really, because we don't know what was going. Yeah, we didn't know what was going. So we were just sort of sat together, just looking at each other, thinking what's going on. And I know we waited for quite a while until the next flight, and then we got onto this massive, enormous. But I mean, the Liat flight I got on, which is a small flight, was enormous for us.
Yeah.
Big aeroplane that age, and then suddenly getting into this monster plane. And I remember we sat at the back. We both sat together, and we were given little things, pencil in things to draw on paper. And I think my memories was I was so scared. We were really scared. We were both scared. So I think we both cuddled each other. So we cuddled each other, and it was obviously a night flight. So we fell asleep, and the next morning we woke up, and you suddenly look this grey. Yeah. So if you've gone from sunshine to this grey.
A bit like it is today here.
Yeah. And that was it, really. I mean, like you said, it brings a little bit of emotion to me there, talking about it, because, it was an experience, yeah.
So what were your first cricketing memories then?
My first cricketing memory was strange, really, because everyone else in the family sort of played cricket. I played football. I didn't really take cricket that seriously. My older brother, Farron, he was the one who was, everyone talked about, said he was a very good cricketer. The boys, they all played, and the elder three, they were very good footballers, cricketers. They played with the likes of Mike Gattin and so on, around, sort of that area. But I really didn't get into team sport at all. I was very, very shy and very reserved. I kept myself to myself. I didn't really get involved. And I played high school. I remember going to high school, and then the games teacher, Ellis Williams, encouraged me to play. I ended up playing more football. I ended up playing more cricket. And then my brother, who played for Sudbury Court, introduced me, said, come along to you. And I introduced me to Sudbury Court. And then I started playing a bit of team sport. But, it all goes back down to, Ellis Williams. And one of my earliest memories, obviously, from Willesden High, and I think the thing that really helped me and encouraged me, coming from, going to state school, I went to Willesden High, which is a state school, but very good for sport. And I remember we had 2 football pitches, and we had a cricket artificial pitch in the middle, and there were sort of like 2-3 concrete nets at school, and a massive playground. And I remember sort of during games period, Ellis Williams decided, he'll sort something out for us. And what he did was, sometimes, during the winter in the games period, he used to take us to Finchley, where I think Middlesex Academy is now. He used to take us to Finchley Indoor Centre during our games period. We used to get on the coach, get to Finchley, and then we played a cricket, indoors. We played a bit of cricket. I remember I was being coached by Raj Maru, who was then Middlesex left-arm spinner.
Oh yeah, he played for Hampshire as well.
So he was there. He was doing some coaching in the winter. So he coached us. Well, you say he coached us. He guided us really, and helped us. Because some of with state school boys, some of us were sort of had troubles. We some of it we weren't the easiest. And then I loved being there. I loved doing the cricket, and I think from there. Moved on to Sudbury Court with my brothers, and then played club cricket and enjoyed the social side of it really. And what I loved about it, playing the club cricket then, it wasn't about where you're from, who you're from, what background you are. It was just enjoying playing cricket really. That was it, and that's what I loved about it.
Well, that's good to hear. So Ellis must have made a big influence on your cricketing career then.
I mean, rest his soul. He passed away a few years back, but he was massive. He was massive, with what went on with me really, and looking forward, moving forward into my career, and even my early sort of test matches and games, like things like that. We stayed in touch, and I'd invite him along to the test matches. We used to, the counties we were ever, when I moved to Leicestershire, if we came down to the Oval or Lords, would meet up afterwards and have a drink in the bar, meet up. So, he was special to me. Ellis was very special, and, and I owe him a great deal.
So you went to Leicester, looking that you first played for them in their second team in 1984. Were you still at school then?
No, I left school. I left school early. I was a tearaway basically. I was desperate. I was desperate to leave school. I was desperate to play. I love football. I wanted to play football all the time. I wanted to play cricket all the time. And my reports back to my mum used to be, if he's spend as much effort and energy as he does in his sport, in his lessons, he would be terrific. He'd be excellent. But he's so focused on this sport and this playing sport, and I got in trouble a lot at school. And sometimes I'm one of those kids back then. It was very hard. I found school very hard because you've got to remember, when I first came over, I had what you call, Dominica, you speak patois, broken French. So I was, I would say patois was my first language in a sense, really. I spoke broken French more than I spoke English, and I was very much that way. So I had that slight, sort of broken French patois accent, and I was teased at school. I was teased, and it affected me at school. And I found I found school very hard, and sometimes I didn't want to be there because you felt that you didn't belong there. You were always, and it's funny, we talk about kids, and with my boys now, and I said it's very important, whoever, what they are, to not tease or, because everyone's different, everyone's got little flaws or problems, and we don't really know. And I struggled, and back then I didn't think, I didn't have the support. Everyone just felt that I didn't want to be at school, I didn't want to learn, and I struggled because of those reasons, and I struggled all through my schooling, really, purely on those reasons.
So sport must have been a great escape for you then. At that time.
Sport was massive. It's the only time I felt, and it's the only place I felt comfortable and I felt safe. Really, was being in a sporting environment. And considering how shy, the reason why I was shy as well, because obviously, I didn't want to open my mouth at times, and so it was very, it was hard. It was very, very hard. And like you said, the only time I felt free or happy or comfortable was in a sporting environment. If I was playing football, if I was playing cricket, because no one can hear, all you can hear is just shouting certain things or doing certain things. But when you got into that classroom and in that environment, when you're asked a question, and you're afraid to open your mouth because, as you said, there's a, and it's one of the biggest regrets, really. Suddenly as you go through my life, and from that incident, I tried to lose and forget about the broken French and French completely. Considering I did French at school, the only time it was in the French lesson I was okay, and then obviously once I got teased on that, I just tried to lose and forget about the broken French or the patois, and really get it out my system. And up to this day, I mean, people, I can understand certain French words, but I've lost it completely because I wanted to, which is sad, really sad. But it shows you, and people don't know these things. People don't know. They see you and they just, they think you're this or you're that. So my upbringing was quite tough.
Yeah, being in a strange country as well. So it's
yeah, and the other thing also. I mean, it's my dad. So he passed away a couple of years ago. I mean, he loved his drinking. He was, he got quite aggressive at times with his drinking. Look, it was my dad. He was a great dad. Could have done better, yeah, but he's my dad. You respect that. But I went through some not nice times, but some horrible times. But my mum's still alive, so I'm very, very careful what I say because it's her husband and she's been married to him for so long. It's my mum, so I'm very, very aware of what I say about my dad. But I went through some horrible moments as well. So my experience as a youngster was quite tough.
Well, cricketing wise, then you started at Leicestershire, and I've looked back at your first class match and your first county championship matches, which I'm sure you'll remember, but they struck me in the fact that the first game you played against Oxford University in May 1985, so you must have been 19 at the time, the Leicestershire bowling attack of Les Taylor, Gordon Parsons and Phillip DeFreitas bowled the university side out for 24. What do you remember about that day?
Yeah, it was one of those really you playing, and I was just so pleased to be playing professional cricket. And it doesn't matter who it was, Cambridge, Oxford, whoever it may be. I was just excited to be out on the field with those names you mentioned, because you remember, of Aggie, Jonathan Agnew, Lace Taylor, they were England players. So I was just Gordon Parsons. They were, out and out season first team players for Leicestershire. So I was just really pleased to be out there. And and one of the things, when I first came to Leicester, Ken Higgs, who was my coach then, he was just said, look, whatever opportunity you get, just grab it, just play, just express yourself. Don't put yourself under any pressure at all. Just go and play like you've been playing. And that stuck with me. And I just looked to the game as just another game, basically. I never used it as I've got to play well, I've got to do well. I'm playing for. I just played, and just went out and just expressed myself, really.
Well, your figures in that demolition of Oxford University was 3.4 overs, 2 maidens, 3 for 3. So it was a good start. So.
Oh, were they all tail enders?
I didn't look. I didn't actually look that detailed. I know John Carr was playing for Oxford University, but
right. Okay, well, yeah.
I don't know whether you got him out.
Got him, that would have been a good wicket then.
That's right. Yeah. But your first class match, you had a good game because you got 5 wickets against Lancashire. And this was at Grace Road, and the great Clive Lloyd scored a century in that game.
He did, yeah. And I'll never forget that, because I was fielding at mid-off, and you heard about Clive Lloyd, how hard he hit the ball. And I remember fielding at mid-off, and he drove one to me at mid-off, and I couldn't believe the power. Yeah, he hit the ball. And I was just in awe of just being on the field, on the cricket field, of, you're thinking, wow, Clive Lloyd, a legend, basically, because, previous years before that, a couple of years before, on the MCC ground staff, I remember throwing balls to them and watching them when West Indies were touring against England. So
now you were playing against him, yeah.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So it was fantastic. And Lancashire, again, as you said, you went out, and I just played, really, and that was it.
Well, it wasn't long before you made the England side, because in 1986 you took 94 wickets, and I actually looked up and thought, now was Phillip the leading wicket taker that year? And I know you played more games in those days, but Courtney Walsh got 118 wickets that year, so you still weren't the leading wicket taker. But it did get you selected for the England tour of Australia. What did it feel like when you got selected for this, such a prestigious tour?
Yeah, it was an incredible season for me. My first season, just repeating myself, really. I loved playing. I loved being out there thinking I'm playing, and I went out just try and perform as best as I could, really, and just enjoy it, really, just enjoy the game. And I remember one of the games we played against Kent at Canterbury, and one of my first early games, really. And I remember I got some wickets in that game, and then I think we were struggling, and I got my maiden first class 100 as well. I mean, the Kent attack, you had Graham Dilly, Alderman, Ellison, Underwood, so and Cowd. So it was quite a decent attack. So I ended up getting my first class 100, and it was an absolute fantastic game. And it went down to the wire, and we ended up losing that. I mean, I got wickets and I got 100, and we still lost it. And I still felt deflated to lose that game. But that season was just, it was incredible. Not once I ever thought about being selected for England. All I was interested in was just playing, just enjoying and playing and performing for Leicestershire, basically. So that the season went really well. It was fantastic. And I remember at the end of the season, we went out for, sort of a celebrating drink, really, of a good season. And I was out with Phil DeFreitas and Lloyd Tennant. We went out, we had a few drinks, and the next morning I wasn't the greatest. I felt rough the next morning for a six-a-side charity, benefit game for Paddy Clift, the late Paddy Clift, and I knew nothing of it. And as I walked, through the gate, the Grace Road, and little Arthur, the gateman, and he just kept saying, "Congratulations, well done." And I kept thinking, "Yeah, cheers, Arthur. I've got the biggest hangover going here. But thank you so much, Arthur. Really, thank you. Yeah, it's been a great season." But he kept repeating himself, and I'm thinking, "What's up with you, Arthur?" And he says, "You don't know, do you?" I said, No, I don't. What are you on about?" And he says, "You've just been selected to play for England, to go on tour with England." And it was the first I knew I was selected to go on tour to Australia on the Ashes tour with England. Arthur the gateman told me.
I suppose in those days it just came out on the radio, and then if you weren't listening,
people knew before you did. So so Arthur knew before I did. So and that was it, really.
Well, you played your first Test match in the November against Australia when you opened the bowling with Graham Dilley. Quite a famous match because he and both of them got 138, and you got 5 wickets in the match, and England won by 7 wickets.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You look at all the heroes, all the guys when you're young. When you're young and you're looking at all these players and you're thinking, "Wow, I'd like to, be like them." Or you don't even think about playing with them. You think, "I'd like to be like them one day, play." And the next thing you know, these guys are my hero. You're talking about Viv. You're talking about the Great West Indies side. You talked about Clive Lloyd, Malcolm Marshall, all these guys. And then the England side, I had, sort of both of them. You had Lamb, you had Gower. I knew about Mike Gattin because obviously my brothers. So you knew about all these guys. And I never felt that, I never thought about playing with these guys. And then suddenly I'm on tour. I get on tour and, both of them my hero. I'm, the first 2 weeks of the tour, I'm sharing a room with my hero. And then you get into the Test match, and the first Test match, and I don't know what the partnership was between both of them and myself, but he got his 100, and the way he smashed it around, I was, winning the Test match. It was just you dream about those things, but it came true, and so it was a wonderful, wonderful time for me.
Well, it was a fantastic tour for England because we retained the Ashes, winning the Test match in Melbourne, and also did very well in the 2 one-day competitions, which you featured in as well. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, look, it was. People talk about if there's anything you can go back to, and like to go back and repeat, and that tour. I'd love to do it over and over again because it was such a fantastic 4 months. And I'm sure, like the present England side who won the World Cup, and how their preparations through the years have gone and how they've been, and they've got that bonding. It was very much that way, out there for 4 months as a family, and we played, and we were just, we were underdogs when we went out, and there were reports of, we couldn't bat, we couldn't field, we couldn't bowl.
Well,
and that was from my mate Scoop Martin Johnson. And we literally turned it round, and it was an amazing tour, and it was full of fun. It was full of fun. I think Gattin as a leader and his man management, I thought was terrific. Mickey Stewart was the coach. I mean, to allow the big boys, the Bothams, the Gowers, also Gowers my county captain. And to allow these guys the freedom, the start of the tour where, it was a bit more relaxed. We were preparation before the Test matches. To allow them that freedom was brilliant. And then when we came to the real thing, it was fantastic. They responded. It was awesome, absolutely brilliant.
Well, the one-day form must have led the side to, in just over about a year's time, when you then reached the World Cup final against Australia. Is that a game we should have won as well?
Yeah, look, we did win it. I felt we should have won it. It's one of those, we should have won it, but we didn't. Australia won it, and I as much as I'm very disappointed about the whole thing, you look back and you think, well, you can't change things. It's happened. But I think we all were gutted, really. We felt that we had the game and we should have won it.
Yeah, in 12 months you've won the Ashes and featured in a World Cup final. So you've had a pretty dramatic start to your international career.
Yeah, it was sort of, you say, you dream about these things, don't you? You dream about it.
Now, you moved to Lancashire in 1988, highly successful one-day side. Why did you move to them at that time?
Well, it was strange, really. You talked about Clive Lloyd, made my debut. I remember Clive Lloyd rang me, spoke to me, and said, look, David Hughes was captain, and we had Alan Omrod as coach at Lancashire, and I sort of got on really well with Neil Fairbrother. We became good friends, and they approached me and said to me, we'd like you to come to Lancs, and said we're building this team, and we want you to, you're going to be part of this jigsaw, basically. And they explained it. They said, look, you'll be opening the bowling 1 week with Wasim Akram, and you'll be opening the bowling the following week, possibly with Patrick Patterson.
That's not too bad.
Player.
Yeah.
So, and I just thought, well, two guys, wow, I could learn from. Absolutely fantastic. But the other thing was Leicester. I loved, Leicester will always be, it is my home. It's always been my home county. And I just felt Leicester on paper. I thought we were a fantastic side on paper. If you looked at Leicester, and I just didn't feel as if we were together on the field as to try and win trophies. I didn't feel we had that. And I felt with Lancs, it's an opportunity. One, you're playing at a test ground. Secondly, it's you're playing with these, opening the bowling with these guys. So it's an opportunity to learn as well. And again, I was very good friends with Neil Fairbrother. So, and I think that through it. But I think when they spoke to me and and how they sold it to me, it was just, the decision was made, really. I had second thoughts. I'm thinking, well, Leicester, given my opportunity, Leicester's my county, and I felt a little bit sort of sad, really, that I had to do it. But I just felt it was part of my, sort of learning and moving on, really, in cricket. Look, back then, people hardly moved counties. They didn't move counties. People hardly. So it was always frowned upon as saying, well, he's moved for the money. And and I had that. People were saying, oh, he's moved for the money. And to be honest, there wasn't a great deal difference as far as money-wise. It might have been an extra $5,000 or 10 grand or whatever, but it wasn't about it. It was about, moving. So I wanted to win trophies, basically.
Which you did. I mean, in 1990, you did the NatWest and Benson Hedges double. So the two premier one-day competitions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I think I had 6 seasons at Lancashire, and they were, fantastic seasons, wonderful seasons. Supporters that, the club itself, the supporters, the members, they were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I loved every minute of it.
Now, going back to your international career, I was looking up. You played in every home summer between 1987 and 1995. But did you ever feel as though you were established in the team?
Not once in my career. The only time I felt established in the team is when I reckon I took more than 3 wickets in an innings. If I took more than 3 wickets in an innings, then I felt, well, I've got a chance to play the next test match. If I didn't, then I thought there's every chance I'll be dropped.
That's quite a sad reflection, really, isn't it? Because when I looked up and see that you're playing, if you said to anyone that this player played every summer for 10 years, you'd say, well, he must have played 80 or 90 test matches.
Yeah, I was, every time I was dropped, and I think if you look it up, every time I was dropped, I didn't take more than 3 wickets. If I didn't take more than 3 wickets, I was dropped. Or 3 wickets or so. It was, it was one of those. You felt that way. You felt if you didn't perform, you're out. And I don't know why. It was. It's sort of, you look back and you think, the support you needed support. You needed people arm around you, talking to you, when you go away, it's explaining to you what you needed to do, what's needed. And it was survival. It was survival back then. And look, if anyone says there wasn't cliques, they're lying. And you had cliques as well. There's no, if you're mates with so and so, there was. And I was a very reserved person, really. I didn't really get involved too much. I just found it uncomfortable at times being in certain situations, really, or social wise, and people saw that and looked at that differently. But it was, I always felt that if I didn't perform, I was dropped the next one, and it happened all the time. But the thing that hurt the most really back then was I didn't really get a reason why. I didn't get a reason. There was no explanation of going. And the only thing I did was walked away from it. And I was happy to walk away, get away from there, and then go back to my county and try to perform and push myself back in again. And every time I went back to my county, I never thought about, I'm going to be picked for England. I just performed, and then I was picked. And that was it, really.
Well, it's very disappointing, really, because there was obviously no central contracts. But I looked up, even in 1994, you got 30 wickets that summer. And then the following summer, 1995, when you were only 29, you played your last Test match.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I had an injury, and look, people said, well, he lost his nip, and I think you just lose confidence. You lose, you just you lose confidence. They reckon you lose your nip, and because county cricket to me was, I wanted to play county cricket because I felt it was important to play county cricket for the counties, for your members. So I was always performing. So when I left a Test match, I was always still bowling my 20, 30 overs for my county. So, can you imagine my body, going back into another Test match? So, where I think it's just wonderful that you've got central contract with the players now. They can be looked after. So when they play a Test match, they can give their all. Back then, you're playing game after game, and I think as sort of 29, you're thinking, wow, I played my last Test match, which is crazy. You should be at your peak as a bowler. You should be at your peak, basically. But it's just non-stop playing, really. That was it.
Now, in the one day international side, you did play 103 internationals, so you were a regular playing for the one day side, and of course you played in two further World Cups, in particular the 1992 World Cup, the Graham Gooch side with Ian Botham, Chris Lewis, Neil Fairbrother, of course. England looked the best team in that competition and came up short in the final. That must have been very disappointing, that particular competition.
From the word go, we went like that. We peaked from the word go. We were playing outstanding cricket. We were far the best side in that tournament. We had a bit of, I think when we got to the quarterfinals stages, the knockout stages, basically, we had a few injuries. I think we had a slight dip, and we're very fortunate where in the World Cup semi-final against South Africa, where it rained. I think it was going to go down to the wire, basically.
Yes, yeah.
That game, it would have gone down to wire, and I reckon it could have gone either way. So, but in that World Cup, I just felt by far we were the best side. And as I said, we just had a little bit of dip. We had a few injuries, a little bit of dip, and we were fortunate again in that semi-final against South Africa. But the game, which, after losing to Pakistan in the final, again you look at and you go back when we played them at Adelaide, we're about to knock them out.
And it rained, didn't it? It rained. Yeah.
And then it rained, and they got a point, and they went through. So, and then to play them in the final, where, team, I don't think we performed at our best, like we did earlier on in the tournament. And the occasion might have got to, one or two of us. I don't know. It's one of those things. But to lose that final after playing such terrific cricket leading up to it all, was, it was quite gutted. I was, I'll be totally honest with you. I've got 2 World Cups runners-up medals, and I haven't got a clue where they are because I think I threw them away. That's how I felt. And I from this day, I haven't got a clue where they are. I literally threw both of them away, and I was so gutted. Someone's got them. Someone's got them somewhere. I haven't got a clue where they are, honestly. So I didn't want to. I was so angry, and that we didn't lose. We didn't win the World Cup. And I know the person who Neil Febro and I, we had our plans about going, when we get home to Manchester, what we're going to do, we're going to go out, celebrate, we had all these things planned in our mind. But the thing is, our teammate, Wasim Akram, who was on the opposition
side,
team, he was basically the one who bowled us out. So it was, it was a sad bit. But look, at the end of the day, Pakistan played better than we did. You can look back and go, well, you look at a few LB decisions, which was a bit sort of, if you had the old, then things could have gone our way.
That's right.
You can't look back. You've got to give credit to Pakistan won it. Congratulations to them. And unfortunately, I've lost 2 finals.
But before you retired in 2005, you did play a bit of T20 cricket, and you played in the first ever competition in 2003 when you were captain of Leicestershire. And you reached the semi-finals. What did you think to T20 cricket then?
Well, I'll be totally honest. When it was first announced, I thought, oh God, what's this? This is crazy. This is madness. You're thinking, well, it's T20s. We play after school. One of those.
Well, all us clubs played T20 cricket. So.
Yeah, and we got into it, and actually, I started to really enjoy it. Really enjoy the team. We did really well. We managed to get to, as you said, finals day. It was terrific. I mean, the problem was with the T20 as well. It was you played it through. I think it was a 2-3 week period, and then we had Championship cricket. And I remember playing in the Championship game against Surrey at Grace Road, or someone against at Grace Road, and then I remember doing my groin. So I did my groin. So I went into final as captain. I went into finals day with a slight groin injury. So I wasn't fully fit, basically. Looking back, maybe I should have stepped aside, really. But first finals day, you want to play. So it's one of those, really. So the experience of finals day was at Trent Bridge, and it was a terrific atmosphere. And we didn't really perform. I think we batted first. We didn't really perform, and that was it, really. But it was a great experience.
So would you like to play T20 cricket nowadays? I'm sure you would.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd have been all around the world. You would have been.
Yeah, but look, for what I've done, what I've achieved, and the great times I've had, the career I've had, there's no regrets, and it's great to see the players. It's wonderful to see the players earning the money they do now, and some players go around the world playing T20. Good on them. Absolutely. Good luck to them.
So, just about your career, have you got a favourite ever day's cricket, either playing or watching? Hopefully, playing.
Favourite ever day's cricket. There's so many.
It's nice to have that, isn't it?
Yeah, there are so many. To pick a favourite ever day's cricket, I mean, you go back to, my first ever game, and I loved just being out there, just playing, just even sat in the change room with the teammates. Every moment I played, even when I played club cricket, even I played PCA Masters cricket, I think just sat in the change room, being out there with the guys, they're all my favourite moments, because it's if you go back to me as a kid, it's a place I felt the safest and the environment I loved the most. So anything involving cricket, it's safe for me. I feel safe, and it's part of me. It's part of my life, and not many people can understand that, but I'm passionate about cricket, and I'm passionate about giving kids opportunity, and I'll try my best. I'll do my utmost, whatever I can do. And if anyone ever questioned that, they've got to really look at me, my sort of the journey I've been on and what I've done, and how I've been involved in cricket and what cricket means to me. And it means the world to me. Cricket's my life, basically. And I love the sport. I love cricket, and it means the world to me.
Well, that ties actually very well with my next question, really, about what's been going on since lockdown, really, with opportunities for black cricketers. I spoke to Roland Butcher on this podcast about that. And do you think the ECB are now doing enough to improve opportunities for black cricketers?
I think that the ECB have been brilliant. They've been very proactive. I think that if you look at I've been asked a question, why are there not so many black cricketers now? And it's $1 million question, really. And as I said, when I first started playing cricket, in my family, my dad and my mum, it's sort of with a Caribbean connection, with the West Indies, such a fantastic side. It was, it's in your blood, it's your DNA. It was basically there all the time, so it encouraged you to play cricket. And as I said, I was very fortunate to play cricket. So there was loads. I'm thinking back, there were loads of cricketers, black cricketers around. And I look around now, and there's not many. And it's a question. Now, if we talk, we can go deep into this, but I'm not in a position to talk about that. All I can say to you, or I can talk to you about my experience and what I've experienced and what I've seen. State school boys, you go back, state school boys, we had the opportunity of playing cricket. We played cricket at school. Do they play cricket at school anymore? The answer is possibly not. No. Have they got facilities? The answer is maybe not. So it's a big question. The ECB, to me, have been fantastic. They've supported myself. They've been brilliant with London schools. We started this process where we try and approach as many kids in state schools. People, it doesn't matter what colour you are, where you're from, who you are, and it's just giving kids opportunity. And I think that you've got to look at it that way. Just give everyone the opportunity.
Has London schools, is it quite a new development involving yourself?
London schools have been there for ages. It's been there for ages. I've been involved with London schools for the last two years or so, just coaching. And there was the opportunity where you try and drive it and give everyone the opportunity, and that's all I've done really. It's not it's not just myself, it's the other coaches, everyone involved, and the people, the exec committee, the guys who've been involved with the ECB. So we've tried to basically with the COVID has given us an opportunity where at first we thought we weren't going to play, we're not going to have any cricket at all. So it was basically a rush really, trying to get cricket, trying to give the kids cricket, follow the guidelines and do it. And it was all a major panic, as you're well aware, through the summer. So we got cricket going. But one of the things I did discuss with everyone was basically there's an opportunity to reach out and get some trials going, get some kids and reach out to try and unearth new talent. And we've done that. We had trials for over 700 kids from under 11s to under 15s basically. So in each age group we're trialing at least 150 kids, and each squad that we've selected, there are at least I'd say minimum 15 new players, which have not been involved with county or not been involved with any association. So which is fantastic. So we actually we're trying to reach out. We're trying to reach out to state school kids as well. But COVID didn't quite allow us to go into the schools because obviously the schools were.
So where are you holding these trials?
Well, basically, one of the things I did, I had a friend who, as I grew up at Sudbury Court, I remember when I went on to the MCC ground staff, and I was told I had to play Middlesex Premier League, and I played a couple of games or 3 games for Wembley. So there was still a few people at Wembley who I knew. I approached them, if we could hire the facilities out. We managed to hire the facilities at Wembley out, and they were absolutely fantastic with us. So we hired the facilities at Wembley, and then I think and the other one was through Peter Yates, who's Secretary of London Schools. We approached Beddington in the south, so we had South and we had North trials over those period. So yeah, it went really well. They were fantastic. We saw a lot of talent, and the toughest bit really, and it's always going to be, is you only select a certain amount of the boys. So for example, we got 30 in the squads. We'd love to select 60. We'd love to select 80, but for winter training and moving forward in games, you just can't. But what we did say to the kids, you can't. The other thing is you can't give feedback to 550 kids. You can't. Yeah, you can't personally give them. So all we've done is we tried to give them feedback to say, look, we hope you've enjoyed the trials. Some of you might think, well, you performed well or did this, but what we look at just natural kids, natural cricketers, and we don't get me wrong, we're all human beings. We might have got some wrong, we might not. And what we've said to the kids, you go away. And if you haven't got in this time, you go away, work at your cricket, in the winter somewhere or in the summer, and then come back again, because kids and kids at that age, they develop at different stages. So we're not saying you're not in, we're just saying, look, you haven't made it this time, so please go away, develop your cricket, work on your cricket, come back again, and who knows. And in this game, you need a bit of luck as well. But and that's all you can do, and that's and that's all we could do. The ECB supported the whole thing, and it was. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, really fantastic.
That's great to hear the ECB. It's not just words; they're actually taking action, and presumably the coaching is going to continue in the winter as well.
Yeah, we're due to start our coaching program, obviously. With COVID, making sure we follow the guidelines, how many we're allowed, and because it's on the 15s, it's the youngsters. I think we're okay at the moment, but we just got to keep up with, see what happens with the government. It could all shut down at any stage at the moment. Yeah. But at the moment, I think we're due to start fairly soon, and we're really looking forward to seeing the new players that we've unearthed, to see what they're like. But again, as a coach and as a youngster, and being through the experience I've been, there are going to be kids who are very unhappy, or they haven't made it, and it's part of sport. I'm afraid it does happen, but you just don't give up. You don't give up. For God's sake, look, I'm a prime example of all that. I was dropped 14 times by England. I didn't play any representative cricket when I was a youngster. Because purely the school I went to, when I started playing cricket, I'd go to trials, and you just felt like you pushed to one side because the school you're from, where you live, and I tried not to look at it in a different way, apart from well, do you know what? I've just got to keep going, and somewhere down the line, my talent will show, and it will happen, and that's all. I do feel for the kids who haven't made it, but I think it's important where the kids who haven't made it is to get the right guidance, is to get the right information to them. But that's not from just us. We can only give you certain advice. That's from the parents. The parents have got to say, well, you didn't make it this time, well, we'll keep going, and next time you will. And if you take that sort of attitude, then your kid, the next time, who knows what's going to happen.
It sounds like there's obviously the interest there and the talent. So will some of those people, these young players, go across to the counties at some point as well, hopefully?
Well, the whole idea of London School is we develop those players. We see players that are not involved in the counties. If there are players involved in the counties, we say, right, you stay with the counties. We've got that relationship now with all four counties, Middlesex, Surrey, Kent, and Essex. So if they're involved with them, then they're involved with those counties, and the other kids who are not involved, we will try and develop them, and we think they get, hopefully we'll encourage them and help them, and hopefully they get to a certain level. Then we can turn around to the county and says, well, I think it's worth having a look at this kid now, and then we look at some new ones to develop. And I think that's how we're looking at it, and that's how you're hoping it's going to work, and hopefully it will give kids more opportunity.
Well, it sounds very positive. I mean, there was a test match last year. I know at the time, I think Ben Stokes was back in New Zealand, but we had a test match where 9 players for England were privately educated in the same team, and there was only Chris Wokes and James Anderson who went to a state school playing for the national side. So hopefully the work you're doing will lead to more people from state schools getting the opportunities to play county cricket.
Look, I mean, you hope so. You hope so for the state school boys, or girls, or whoever it may be. But to me, ultimately, it's just giving each one the same opportunity. As I said, for me, it doesn't matter if you go to state school or private school or where you're from, who you are. It's just give you that opportunity. If you've got that, if you've got the talent, you've got the love, the passion for the game, you've got the ability, we should give you the opportunity and try and help you.
Well, thank you very much for that. Looks like you're very busy anyway. So and thank you very much for being with me today on the paddock and the pavilion. And the best luck with all the coaching. And thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Pad and Pav.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of statistics, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million football fans who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.